noise today. Hmm? Yeah, heck yeah. For all of us.
Director Denstedt, we do see you on Zoom. Thank you. I do show 9:30.
Okay. Good morning. We will call the Western Water Regular Board meeting of December 17th to order at 9:30. May we please have roll call?
Thank you. Good morning. Director Gardner.
I am here.
Director Torres. Director Denstedt.
I'm present. Good
Thank-
morning from Las Vegas.
Good morning. Thank you. Director Isby.
Good morning, I'm here.
Thank you. Good morning. And President Roten.
And I am here as well. Good morning.
Thank you. President Roten, you do have a quorum today.
Okay, thank you. I would like to invite Gul Nawaz, Engineer 2, Engineering CIP Department, forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Go, hang on.
Yeah,
Question there?
you're not off the hook yet.
We want you to, we want you to sing a Christmas carol before.
Or a
I didn't prepare.
patriotic song, either
Or,
one.
yeah. Tell the board how long you've been here, what you do, what your focus is.
It's been almost, December 23rd will be 1 year for me, working at Western.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I work in the CIP department, so all water, sewer-related projects. And overall, I have 8 years of engineering experience.
Nice, great.
Cucamonga Valley Water District.
Not stolen.
Yeah.
We share.
All right.
We all share.
We
I would
share,
consider it an upgrade.
All right.
yeah, we share as long as it goes one way.
Yeah, it's one-way sharing.
We share information.
Oh, that's
Thank you, Gul.
true.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Madam
Ms. Ford.
President,
Oh,
Before we start,
yes.
could I point out that there are Christmas cookies over on the table there? And that
Absolutely.
the tin is going home, but the cookies are not.
All right.
So you are all expected to eat cookies.
All right.
And they have 0 calories, only butter and
Oh,
sugar.
thank goodness.
Those are the best.
And they definitely have butter. It's delicious. Okay, we'll move to public comments. Ms. Ford, do we have any public comments this morning?
President Roten, I have received no public comments, and there are no requests to speak in the room.
Okay, then we'll move on to presentations. Mr. Miller, do you want to introduce that?
I would
item?
love to. We're very fortunate today to do our annual federal update on what's going on. Mark Limbaugh and Chris Kearney from the Ferguson Group are here to share how the year went and maybe project a little bit what's going to happen in the upcoming year. So Chris, or Mark, I'll turn it over to you and you'll share with Chris, I'm sure.
Well, thank you, Madam President and members of the board. It's always a pleasure to come down and see you in your native habitat. And as also, it's nice to have you guys come back to DC as you have every year to basically to share the benefits and all of the experiences that Western provides in DC. So without further ado, we'll try to get going here. Let's see. There we go. As we have in the past, we've put the acronyms in your presentation. So if I talk DC Talk, you'll know what I'm talking about. We did have to add one from last year. OB3 is the last one on your list there in this second page, and that's the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that was passed this past year, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But that was under budget reconciliation with the 119th Congress coming into town earlier in the year.
So is that kind of like Webster's Dictionary that picks their word of the year that they add in?
Yeah, it's the word of the year. So
Thank you for the list.
you're more than welcome. Today, we'll just kind of give you a current overview of the 119th Congress, the 2026 appropriations process, which has been very interesting and full of all kinds of stuff. A little bit about our congressionally directed spending asks for Western and some of the other things that are happening in Congress, including the National Defense Authorization Act, infrastructure bill implementation, Water Smart, PFAS, and then we'll talk a little bit about this next year, what your federal affairs agenda looks like. In terms of the appropriations, there's 9 bills left out of the 12. If you recall, there was a 43-day shutdown of the federal government because after the 30th of September, Congress couldn't come together and pass a continuing resolution to extend funding for 43 days after that, the end of the fiscal year in September. So we had that. It was, needless to say, it was a bit disruptive and certainly something that is no fun for anybody. But it happened, and Congress did finally come together to get a continuing resolution, or CR, passed. In that CR, there were 3 annual appropriations bills. One is USDA, one was Ledge Branch, which funds Congress. Funny that would be in there. And then the last one is military construction. So those 3 are done. So we have 9 more. Congress is currently looking at, and the CR goes through the January 30th. So the January 31st is when we turn it into a pumpkin or another CR, or all 9 bills get passed. So those are the options. Congress is looking at, Senate's looking at putting together 5 of those 9 bills into a package. The House is maybe looking at 3 of those bills into a package. So they're not lining up very good. The one thing that is lining up is the Interior Environment bill, which funds EPA, the Department of the Interior, or not Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Interior, other agencies. And those are on both lists. So hopefully whatever goes will include Interior. And of course we have a funding request in there for Western, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The one thing that we have in the past seen Congress add money to the Bureau of Reclamation's budget, which obviously that includes Water Smart, some of the grant programs that we enjoy success here at Western, some of the storage funding, Title 16 funding, which is helpful in the larger scheme of things on the Colorado River and the State Water Project. So those typically are added in there, and this year is no exception, although there is, on the Energy and Water bill, which funds the Corps and the Bureau and the Department of Energy, in that bill, there are some significant differences between the Senate and the House versions. And in fact, the Senate version actually robs money from the bipartisan infrastructure law and basically puts it into the operation. So Bureau would lose some funding that they've already gotten for aging infrastructure. It would basically just go back into the budget. And that's not very popular. That was the majority's view. The minority had nothing to say about it. So here we sit, Energy and Water now is becoming one of the sticking points of the 9 bills that are left. And we're hopeful that there'll be negotiations, that something comes out of there that makes sense. But if not, there may be a full year CR for some of these, which basically punts us again at FY 2024 numbers for that particular bill. The Interior bill includes, on the House side, includes $1,092,000 for reservoir management system that we had put in for, and Mr. Takano put in his list. And certainly it got included in the House version of the Interior Environment bill. And so we're hopeful that that makes it through the entire process. The Senate, in order to get votes on the Senate versions of these bills, they have to give the votes to, a vote to some of the more conservative members to strip out all earmarks. We don't think that's going to pass. I think there's both Republicans and Democrats agree that earmarks or congressionally directed spending is kind of the grease that keeps the skids moving forward in the appropriations process. And it's less than 1% of the entire budget, so it's very, very small, but it does say, hey, look, Congress knows a little bit more about our districts and what we have going out here in terms of projects that are more important than maybe some of the bureaucrats feel like they do. So it does give Congress more say in where that money goes. The 2027 process is coming up. That's the president's budget request is supposed to come out the first Monday in February. In the past, we've seen that delayed. Last year it was delayed quite a bit, several months, because of the new administration coming in. So this year might be a little closer to the actual time that they're supposed to have it. And then that budget kicks off the appropriations process for 2027, in which we will be asking for yet again another congressionally directed spending provision for Western. And that'll be in the March-April timeframe, by the way. The 2026 bipartisan infrastructure law, every year Reclamation comes out with what they are spending out of that. They got $8.3 billion out of that. In FY 2026 is the last year for that funding to be spent, obligated, I should say. Small storage, you got 17 million, Title 16, 28 million, large recycling, 133 million. There was a large pot of money for a large recycling project, and in particular, I think there's one in Southern California. Desalination, 80 million. So Water Smart's a little smaller because they spent a lot of that money in the previous years. The drought plan for Lower Colorado River got 74 million, and on there. Basically, this, like I say, this is kind of cleaning up the balance of what was not obligated in the past, and certainly something that that we've benefited from the infrastructure law in putting money into Western water infrastructure. The Inflation Reduction Act, which was another law that was passed in the previous Congress, included $4 billion for the Bureau of Reclamation basically for drought in the Colorado River, but also drought in some other basins. And so about $500 million of that $4 billion went to other basins, and the balance of that $4 billion is going into the Colorado River Basin. Some of these numbers on the Lower Colorado System Conservation are pretty significant, and there's certainly a large share of that money still unspent, and it's something that this administration is holding out in terms of looking for a negotiated agreement to replace the 2007 guidelines, operational guidelines on the river. So we'll probably see some of that funding released early spring next year. For projects in the Colorado River Basin that will hopefully help move people along and get to an agreement that can be ratified. We'll talk a little bit about WOTUS. This administration, it's a time-honored tradition to come up with your own Waters of the United States rulemaking. Every administration has their own, and this one is no exception. The difference between this WOTUS rulemaking and the previous ones is that we now have a Supreme Court decision in Sackett v. EPA that basically narrows the definition of what a water of the United States is, and what waters are jurisdictional under the Clean Water Act and what waters are not. Doesn't change the jurisdictional regulation at the state level, but it does change in terms of the federal level in terms of what EPA can and can't do, and the Corps of Engineers in implementing the Clean Water Act. And so the crux of the Sackett, and you guys have adequate, a very, very good representation that helps you put your comments in. the crux of this particular rulemaking, and in my mind, it does try to conform to SACIT, but they've added a couple things that tend to muddy the water, so to speak. One of which is they look at relatively permanent continuous flow, which is in SACIT, as that's a jurisdictional water, except they add something called a wet season to that definition. So it has to either flow year-round or at least during the wet season. Well, what's the wet season? That's new, you know. So there's just always something that comes up that we need to comment on, and certainly that's one that a lot of folks are commenting on. I'm sure you will as well. But it does reduce the number of waters that are jurisdictional under the Clean Water Act to waters that are basically rivers and streams that flow and the subsequent wetlands that abut those and touch those, and the water flows through those. Those are jurisdictional waters. Ephemeral, intermittent streams, other things like ditches, canals, those kinds of things. They're trying to get those out of that, but they can't help themselves, so they have all this gobbledygook in the rule that basically makes it very difficult to figure out, well, is a ditch jurisdictional or not? So we're trying to figure out how we can comment, at least from my other client's perspective, how we can comment on those to kind of clarify it a little bit more than what this rule does. But it's much better than previous rules, and it certainly is trying to conform to the law of the land, the SACIT decision of the Supreme Court. Other rulemakings that are going on, there's an Endangered Species Act rulemaking that the comment period is just closing this next week. And they basically is the rules that the previous Trump administration had put in place, that the Biden administration had taken out and replaced with their rules, and then this rulemaking replaces the Biden administration rules with the previous Trump administration rules. So in other words, it's basically the ping pong game of rulemaking in these different administrations that come through. In particular, it talks about removing the blanket rule. In other words, when a species is listed as threatened, it does not get the same protections as the species that are listed as endangered. And in the previous administration, once you're a threatened species, you're treated like an endangered species. So those are the kinds of things, the tweaks that make those make it different. And so there are other things it gets into some pretty good detail, and so certainly it's we think it's probably a little bit more of a common sense approach, but you know, we deal with it as it comes. Your priorities this last year, obviously, we've worked on include the HCP, the MARB DCIP grant implementation and application, which you guys won in the previous year. WaterSmart grants, we have a call with Western's grants team on a regular basis, and certainly talk about opportunities and how we can help. The community project funding implementation, which are those are the earmarks that you've gotten in the past several years. We continue to follow those and make sure that that money gets out on the ground for the benefit of Western. And the requests that we just talked about this past year, and obviously requests that we're going to be doing in the coming years. The infrastructure legislation, California water infrastructure is a key component of what we do in DC for you. PFAS, which Chris is going to talk about here in a minute. And then in June of this past year, Western was represented in DC with several folks that came back, and we made the rounds with your delegation and the agencies, and certainly that's a very important part of what you do, because DC needs to hear that what Western is doing, and you're a premier water agency in Southern California. They want to know what you're doing, and I think it's always good to do that. So EPA, I'll turn it over to Chris here to talk a little bit about PFAS.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all again. Interesting dynamics with PFAS with this administration that caught me by surprise, and some other folks, I think, frankly. You will recall that the Biden administration promulgated and finalized two sort of landmark regulations on PFAS, one which designated PFAS and PFOA as a hazardous substance under the Superfund Act, as well as set for PFAS for those same elements, a 4 parts per trillion standard for the Safe Drinking Water Act, and you're all quite familiar with some of the ramifications and conversations we had about that. If not, I'm happy to take you back down that lane, but probably not needed. With Lee Zeldin as being appointed and confirmed as administrator, he was someone who brought a rare and unique perspective on PFAS. While the previous administration, the administrator had been a head of a natural resources and environment agency in North Carolina and brought sort of the state perspective, Mr. Zeldin was a 3-term member of Congress from Long Island, and PFAS had been a priority issue for him. And he came from a politically moderate district. It was an issue that he substantively knew a good bit about, and so he walked the walk. He was in fact, he was at one point chairman or co-chairman of the House PFAS caucus. So it was with great interest that a number of us were going to watch what Tone EPA would send. And one of the things that they did that was similar to this administration, it's not reflected on here, but they set about a detailed evaluation of the previous administration's approach to their comprehensive work plan before they came up with theirs. We'll talk about that in just a second, but they really took a deep dive and took this quite seriously. What was surprising, I think, a little bit after that was that they continued. It took them a number of months, and they continued to kind of kick the can down the road as the litigation that was pending when they came into office on both of those regulations. There was widespread groups of from water agencies to water organizations to chemical organizations, and manufacturers that were in court over both of those provisions. And so the administration took the better part of this year to sort of sort out where they wanted to be. Well, in the end, they went into court and indicated that they were upholding both of those Biden-era regulations. With a couple of tweaks to that, though. When they announced the designation for the Superfund provision in May of this year, Administrator Zeldin did something that other folks had not done. He was very, very clear that a passive receiver exemption, particularly for water agencies, should in fact occur. He indicated, however, that the law simply didn't allow him the flexibility to do that. But he called on Congress with that announcement to, in fact, move forward with that regulation, that type of exemption, which we'll talk about in a second. With the Safe Drinking Water Standard, while also upholding that standard, the first thing that he indicated was, we realize how unbelievably complex and challenging this is for water agencies, so we're going to give you an additional 2 years to implement that. And then we're going to promulgate a separate regulation by spring of 2026 to provide additional guidance to you. Presumably one can assume exceptions and that sort of things. So as a consequence of that, those are steps I think we characterize as efforts to mitigate that burden. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, there have been other steps at the congressional level that they try to do that. So the administration recognizes what their regulatory and statutory responsibilities are and upholding them, but also recognize that there are challenges. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and there needs to be an ongoing dialogue with water agencies and associations. The work plan is broader than perhaps, or less prescriptive, I guess, than the previous administrations. It focuses more on, and this is kind of neither here nor there, it's just sort of factual, more of a efforts to have outreach with outside groups and input as they move forward on various things with respect to PFAS. So for example, one of the things the previous administration did, besides the 2 Superfund designations, was there's a whole another group of 6 or 7 types of PFAS that the previous administration had set on a path to be designated under the Resource Conservation Recovery Act, RCRA, so somewhere between just putting in a landfill and sort of having a Superfund designation. This administration went into court and indicated that they wanted to take another look at that and would probably be pulling back from that RCRA designation, but they wanted to have an amount of outreach. So that sort of thing is in their work plan, or dealing with science, and there's a variety of other things. So it's broader and less timetable written. As I said, on litigation, the administration has sort of been holding up the next steps on litigation because they have kept asking for continuances for the last several months as they sorted out where they wanted to land on these 2 regulations. They are now set, and the courts have now set timetables for briefs and filings associated with the drinking water standard as well as with the Superfund, which will carry us probably well into 2026 as that all sorts to continue to unwind. In Congress, we've had a couple of developments, some expected, a couple of others not expected. Chairman Capito from West Virginia, who is the ranking member, during the previous Congress and has long been an advocate for a passive receiver exemption, has been having very good conversations, we understand, with her counterpart, her Democratic counterpart, Mr. Whitehouse from Rhode Island. It is a committee that politically is sort of ideologically divided. The Democratic side of this committee has always been very focused on issues related to environment and related to water and so forth. There have not always been the best of relationships in previous Congresses. Senator Capito and Senator Whitehouse have committed, and I can tell you are demonstrating good faith efforts to have a conversation both amongst themselves and their staff to see if there's a path forward on things like passive receivers and other aspects of these issues. They had an oversight hearing earlier this year that was ostensibly focused on different treatments of PFAS, incineration, and that sort of thing, but it devolved into a pretty broad discussion related to passive receivers. Senator Capito even went so far as to suggest that perhaps some of the treatment under the brownfields federal law might be a model. So they're having conversations. Senator Whitehouse's concern is that this not be some sort of pathway or gateway to an exemption that opens up and gets off the hook, you know, the true bad guys, basically. And that he went to great lengths to make an indication that he was open to conversation, but he didn't want this to be, you know, that he felt that liability provisions and other things under a Superfund had been very effective in terms of keeping honest, you know, being a resulting effective effort in implementing the statute and keeping folks at the table, and doesn't want any of that to be diluted. But that's, I can tell you, there's a lot of senators not talking to each other about divisive issues. For Senator Whitehouse and Senator Capito, particularly the folks that they lead, you know, as a former staffer, I'm pretty encouraged by that. I think their biggest challenge in getting something done is probably going to be the calendar. I think they're just, as we turn into 2026 and you think of sort of July 4th as kind of the psychological kind of cutoff to get anything done, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. Importantly, at that oversight hearing, both Senator Padilla and Senator Schiff, who are members of that committee, attended the hearing. They both asked related questions, not necessarily directly to passive receivers, but sort of indirectly. Senator Schiff asked about a particular court case involving Rhode Island and some of its ramifications. Senator Padilla talked about the fact that the administration has kept in place an enforcement memo that they have that basically says, under certain circumstances, rest assured we're not coming after water agencies and others in the normal course of doing our events. And he recited some of the provisions of that white paper that the Biden administration put in place as sort of a sidecar for the Superfund reg, which this administration's continued. So he put forward to some of the witnesses and had some dialogue about whether or not that might potentially be a path forward. So again, we're dealing with some really substantive, thoughtful communications on what has been a very thorny issue. The only thing I would say before moving on to the next slide is a couple things have happened since we did those slides. One is pretty, and I'm sorry this constitutes breaking news, as I was saying to folks at dinner last night, but for the first time in at least 5 years, the House Energy and Commerce Committee is going to hold a hearing, and it's going to be this week, it's actually Thursday, related to PFAS. And not only is it related to PFAS, but it's an oversight hearing focused explicitly on the challenges facing passive issues of folks affected by Superfund designations with respect to passive receivers. That it called out in the press release a recognition of that issue. So that is very significant. Where that takes us, it's hard to tell, but since Fred Upton from Michigan left as sort of a champion of trying to address this issue, the House has been completely silent. I think it's partially a testament, my speculation is it's partially a testament to Mr. Zeldin's ongoing relationships with folks in the House and his serious commitment to try to work through this issue. The last thing is the National Defense Authorization Act, which is about to, which has now come out of conference, passed the House, pending the Senate, has much less on PFAS than it's had in the past. Notably, though, it continues now for 2 more years, the extension on the phase out for incineration and burning of PFAS materials on military bases. So that will, in fact, continue. So a lot yet to be done on this. We're going to be following it very closely, engaging. We'll continue to engage with you all. But as I have said to a couple of folks before, I'm actually quite encouraged about where we are. I think the calendar is going to be, at least for this Congress, is going to be our challenge.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I have a doctor appointment I can't miss, but I'm going to jump on the Zoom to finish this. This is riveting stuff. And I just wanted to apologize to the employees for missing the recognition today. But you guys are all doing awesome. And again, so sorry to interrupt, but
No
this
problem.
is great stuff. I'm going to jump back on as soon as I get in the car.
Thank you. Just moving quickly to some of the grants that Western has received. Obviously, the big one is that $13 million Defense Community Infrastructure Program grant that we worked on. Did not get the first time and got it the second time, and certainly that's something that's very important to our neighbor over here at March Air Reserve Base. The Water Smart Awards, we talk a little bit about the ones that we've gotten in 2024. In 2025 and 2026, we've seen Water Smart Awards be a little bit less on less of a timetable that we're used to. The new administration has kind of paused a lot of grants to make sure that they're consistent with their message and their priorities, and so now we're starting to see those start to loosen up. So we're going to start to see more of these programs open up, and certainly we'll be helping Western apply for and win those grants. Some of the community project funding of the earmarks that we've gotten, as you can see, the newest one is the $1,092,000 in the FY 2026 Interior Environment House bill, and certainly that's been one that we believe is going to continue to move through. The one in 2025 was not funded because of the full year CR. The full year CR did not have earmarks in it. And so therefore, we didn't get anything in 2025. For next year, our priorities, very similar to the ones we've been working on. I think the main thing here is that we want to continue to represent and help Western represent your constituents back in DC. In spring, we'll hopefully be able to set up some meetings for a trip to DC for Western, for your management and board members to come back and talk about all your successes and needs. So we look forward to that. Very quickly on the outlook side of things, we're getting ready for another busy year, as Chris mentioned. With an election year coming up, typically mid-year is about when you start to see people turn into pumpkins, and so we will try to get as much done as we can in the first part of the year. A couple of notable things. Obviously, the GOP holds control of both the House and Senate, but the House is very close, and all it takes is 3 votes, and it flips to another control. So we'll be watching that closely, as well as the Senate's a 53-47 majority there. The new Assistant Secretary for Water and Science is Andrea Travnik. She was in the previous Trump administration as Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, also Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and several other positions that she was in. So very accomplished, and certainly she hails out of North Dakota, where the Secretary comes from. And so she has a very good relationship with Secretary Burgum and his crew. Jessica Kramer is the Assistant Administrator for Water at EPA. She comes off the Hill, the Senate EPW, I believe, staff, and worked very closely with Senator Capito on various issues, and she'll be a good one to work with as well on the EPA side. The committees are going to start becoming a little more active, especially the Senate, because they haven't done anything much this year. It's a new chairman and ranking member, and they're just starting to get to know each other a little bit better with new staff, and so it's been a little bit of a slog getting that committee up and going. So now we're starting to see more activity out of Senate Energy and Natural Resources, and Senate EPW obviously has been busy because they have the same leadership combination they've had in the past. The House Natural Resource Committee is very active. We have a new staffer there, Richie O'Connell, who you guys know used to work for Mr. Calvert a long time ago, and then he was in the House Energy and Water Appropriations Committee staff. He took over for Anik Miller, who left the committee. So he's hit the ground running and has had several committee hearings as well. We'll probably see a WRDA bill come out this year, and they're starting to hold some hearings. In fact, there's one this week on stakeholder input for the new Water Resource Development Act, or WRDA, and that basically is a bill that comes every 2 years that authorizes new studies and projects for the Corps of Engineers, as well as making some policy direction for that agency. The executive order on California water, we've seen some action on that recently with the adoption of Action 5 in the Delta, and certainly we've got some other shoes to drop there. A lot of it's going to depend on the litigation on that particular issue, and that has to do with the management of water in the Delta, and certainly the effect on the State Water Project is something that we watch very carefully as well. And then, like I say, we talked a little bit about the new regulations and rulemakings, ESA. There's some bills that are coming out on ESA that the House is producing. Anytime you touch one word on the ESA, it's very controversial. So we're probably not going to see a lot of wholesale changes in Congress on the implementation of the Endangered Species Act, but certainly the administration has been active in the rulemakings. WOTUS, the public comment ends on January 5th, and we haven't heard whether that gets extended or not, so we'll be watching that. NEPA, the House is going to vote this week on the SPEED Act, which significantly makes reforms to the National Environmental Policy Act, which is NEPA, and that's something that you have to look at every time there's a federal action. That law requires the federal agencies to look at what the environmental impacts are of that action, and what the alternatives would be if those impacts are negative. One thing that we've seen in this administration in the past, CEQ, the Council on Environmental Quality at the White House, has kind of been the referee of NEPA across the government, and has had rules and policy direction and all that kind of thing. They've basically, this administration says not anymore. CEQ is not an agency. There was a lawsuit that basically said, well, CEQ really doesn't have the authority to do that. So now it goes back to each agency has their own rules and their own procedures on under NEPA. So it puts a little more onus on us to know that stuff, and certainly we've been watching that closely as well. And then obviously the PFAS issues that we've talked about already. So with that, we'd certainly stand for questions. Again, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege to represent Western in Washington, D.C. We really enjoy working with you guys. You guys are a class act, and certainly have a lot of good things going on that we hope we can help further your efforts. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is quite an update. A lot going on even with the shutdown. So, yeah, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? And that would include Brenda. I can't see her on my screen. Is she flagging us down, or?
Director Denstedt, do you have any questions or comments for the Ferguson Group?
Yeah, just a comment. Thanks, guys, for everything that you do. I happen to be in Vegas at the CRUA conference for the Colorado River water negotiations going on, which obviously is a big deal. So, but appreciate all the things that you're doing for PFAS. It's also been a big, side conversation over here at conference, and just looking forward to seeing you when I go back for February for the Aqua and CASA conference. So thanks, everything.
Okay, anyone else?
A quick comment. Thank you very much. It's been a challenging year, but I feel that we are really well represented, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's like I say, it's a privilege to be able to represent you guys, and we appreciate it too. So.
Thank you.
And we're going to have to jet out because I've got a plane to catch. So don't take it personally if I don't stick around. But thank you again, and we look forward to seeing some of you back in D.C. Next year.
Fazia, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say I had the pleasure of going visiting you guys this summer, and it was I really saw the work you guys have been doing for us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you what next year brings. So thank you so much for all the hard work you guys have been doing.
Well, thank you guys. I know you guys work just as hard as we do, or more so. So we do appreciate it. So thank you again, and happy holidays, everybody.
I would also like to thank the Ferguson Group on behalf of staff. The board may not be aware, but there's different levels of federal representation, and ours is a little different. with our representatives. You know, our staff literally calls them to talk about strategy of how to write up applications to make sure we're successful on the grants. They do a great job putting us in a very good position to win the grants. So, you know, why are we good at winning grants? They're literally part of the team and the leadership and out helping us find grants that we can be successful for. So really important to the formula of what we do. And, you know, we're building projects that we couldn't build otherwise. And, you know, they get a lot of credit for doing that. And so I really appreciate you guys. We always have a great trip back there. We get great response from the meetings that you set up. So really look forward to whether we can do that in April or May or whenever. Mark and Chris kind of picked the best time to go. So we'll see what they land on given all the schedules. But as a side note, last night at dinner, we actually solved the Colorado River problems.
No,
And
no.
so we'll see if anyone listens to us. But I think we got it solved.
I thought that's why Brenda was at CRUA. So
Oh,
that's-
Well,
maybe we
and
should call her
somebody can
offline.
send me that solution, please.
We'll call her offline. Thank you all. Thank you very much
No,
for what
thank
you guys do.
We appreciate it. And Brenda, say hello to everybody at CRUA. I miss them already, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks.
Okay. Let's see, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Were there any comments on the public comments on anything on consent?
We do not have any comments on the consent calendar.
Okay. And
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Whenever you're ready to take the vote.
Director Gardner,
Aye.
Director Denstedt,
Aye.
thank you. Director Risby,
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0 with Director Torres being absent.
Okay, hang on, sorry, my notebook got caught up here. All righty, item 7, Mr. Miller, do we have anything to be added to the agenda?
We do not have anything to add today.
Okay, and we'll move on to item 8, action agenda. Item A, approve a capital budget increase and authorize the purchase of portable generators and fuel trailers for the Emergency Preparedness and Mitigation Response Program.
Well, we've been trying to keep the board up to speed on this. We have a new way to do business, apparently, since energy is not always a guarantee anymore. And so we create our own.
Yep.
And Dean's led the effort to make sure that we are 100% reliable despite what may happen on the power grid. And so that requires an investment. And so Dean will present this item to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. Good morning, directors. Good morning, Western family. Great to see everybody today. We are thankful for the opportunity to present our Emergency Preparedness and Mitigation Response Program today. During the EOWR committee meeting, operations report on August 4th, you may remember, we addressed the Public Safety Power Shutoff, otherwise PSPS, events experienced by Western and reviewed the after-action review conducted. Today's presentation will summarize that discussion, highlighting the 2025 PSPS events encountered by Western, their impacts, our team's responses, and which includes that AAR as well. This AAR has been crucial in developing our comprehensive emergency preparedness and mitigation response program for all events, not just limited to PSPS. Sorry. We will conclude the presentation with 3 items for your consideration. So, our agenda topics for discussion today will be lessons learned from those recent events and January PSPS events. Our response to date, Western's response to date, enhancing our emergency preparedness. This is really the point of transition from this event and moving into our program that we're presenting. Our reason for action, and as mentioned, our request at the end. Our timetable here of events, this was the January events. We've seen this slide here, but just for some background, in 2019, Southern California Edison introduced the Public Safety Power Shutoff protocols as part of its wildfire mitigation strategy. These protocols are activated during red flag warnings and period of high fire risk. On January 6, 2025, Southern California Edison initiated a public safety power shutoff, ultimately interrupting power to 12 Western Water sites. These events, along with other unexpected electrical outages, pose a significant threat to service continuity across all Western Water facilities, including 61 sites located in designated high fire areas. So just run through this timetable real quick. We see, as mentioned, on January 6th, the Edison gives us their notification protocol for PSPS events. That triggers a series of events for Western itself, deploying generators and really strategizing at that point. We see the window there of January 8th to January 21st. That's when we really experienced the power shutdowns. 15 of our sites were affected, 12 generators deployed at that time. All sites weren't off for that duration of time. A couple sites actually were, but most of the sites experienced either 1 or 2 outages or periodic outages throughout that event there. So this is the period of time where we really face the challenges that we'll be speaking about, and that was really just deploying generators, keeping them running, fueling these generators, acquiring fuel continuously to keep these generators running, as well as staffing, getting staff out to these areas and things like that. So followed up with that, really seen this as an event to capitalize on, and followed up with that January 28th and February 5th with a couple meetings with our maintenance operations staff as well as our system operations staff. Really maintenance focusing on deploying the generators, getting them up and running, connecting them, and our systems teams really, once they're on generator power, dealing with on and off or interruptions in power and keeping their systems running on generator. Moving to February 5th through March 4th was really where we took a lot of this data that we acquired from all the staff that was involved and really just kind of compiled that into our needs for the district, prioritized it, and really put some cost estimates and a game plan really to get some movement forward on these events. This slide here, really, we see our service area there on the left. In this service area there, you see some areas highlighted or in red, and then also in orange. The red is the fire threat tier 3, which is their extreme level, and fire threat tier 2, which is just an elevated level. In the bubbles there, you see the 15 sites that were impacted at this time. So provide some context to this. Western has 72 sites that receive electrical service from Edison. Of those 72 sites, 61 are located in these high fire areas shown here. And out of the 61 sites in those high fire areas, 15 were affected, which brings that to roughly about 25%, which are highlighted in these bubbles here. So the point we're really emphasizing here and want to bring out is that at this 25% level, we were stressed. We were vulnerable at that time with the deployment of generators, fuel sourcing, and other aspects that go along with that. So all of our generators were deployed at this time, and really just want to emphasize that if the site number increased at that point, there would have been some decisions to be made and on what sites were running and things like that. So good slide there. So after the AAR, we conducted a SWOT analysis. I'll highlight some strengths and opportunities from that, and just focusing on our number one bullet point here, the uninterrupted service to customers, really did come from our staff in our AAR meetings, the feedback that they gave us. So whether it was a potable customer, or recycled water, or wastewater collections or wastewater treatment, none of our customers experienced any outages from us, from Western themselves. So a couple more strengths there, the mutual aid agreements, business contacts secured more generators and fuel. We were able to acquire a generator from RPU and some fuel from our friends at Harupa. Although we did not use either of those, it was good to have those resources on hand just in case we needed to. And then the last two bullets there really just speak to our culture here at Western and everybody willing to just the teamwork and readiness and support, really just wanting to jump in and get us across the finish line there. So solid strength on that one. Opportunities moving forward. I'll highlight these first two bullets on here. Improve generator flexibility and enhance resources. That's really the recommendations that we have today, the generator flexibility. just acquiring generators a smaller size all the way up to larger size, allowing us to use that flexibility to determine where best to deploy them. Enhance resources with the generators and fuel trailers. It's really just, again, adding generators, and the fuel trailers will allow us to get that fuel out to these generators when they're set up and running. The last 4 bullets there are really some business process improvements that we focused in on, standardizing practices and training, getting our staff involved and ready for these events, valve maintenance, vendor accounts, and again, the mutual aid agreements is key, not only to share our assets, but also acquire assets from our respective agencies. Our response to date just gives you kind of an idea of the work in the background leading up to this. You can see on this table here on the left, there's the column there in purple and white. There's the 3 rows there. That's really the 3 core strategies that we've gone after in this program to date. Improve fuel storage and transportation. Building the fuel station, as we know, that's in the planning process right now. It was a board-approved project. Improve fuel resources and transportation. Increasing our fuel drivers and vendors, being able to acquire, not just position ourselves with 1 or 2 vendors, but adding up to 5 so we have options. And then procurement of fuel trailers and deployment, which is our recommendation. Next row there, the enhanced power generation. We've already went ahead and purchased some smaller generators, what we call suitcase generators, really able to pick these up and take these to sites to run smaller areas, or for staff even to use them to provide lighting or whatever that may be. Provide battery backup. This is really a bridge to gap from utility power to getting us back on generator power, the batteries to bridge that gap for us. And the last one there again is the improved standards and practice, really business efficiencies as we look at it, training our staff. Mission critical vendor list there was really establishing vendors that we must keep active at all times. So if something happens, trigger happens, and we get that vendor listed again so they're available during these times. And then expand our Class A drivers or commercial driver's license drivers, already moving on that, offered that to staff and increasing that number. And then again, our expanded mutual aid agreements, currently working with other agencies now. So in response to the January 2025 event, Western Water conducted a formal after-action review that identified critical vulnerabilities in Western Water's ability to maintain essential operations during extended power outages. This led to the development of the Emergency Preparedness and Mitigation Response Program, a comprehensive strategy to strengthen emergency response, ensure uninterrupted service, and protect public health and safety. So our goal here is really to emphasize the transition from that event in January that we went through, leveraging that event, the AAR, we conducted the SWOT analysis and developed this Emergency Preparedness and Mitigation Response Program. So never let a good crisis go to waste. On this first one here, enhancing emergency preparedness, improve our fuel storage, talked already about increasing the drivers, our fuel trailers, which is one of our recommendation purchases today, capacity of 460 gallons, 2 of those, and a 920 gallon. You may ask, why are we not just buying 3 920 gallons? Well, the 460 gallon trailers gives us the flexibility for Class C drivers, pretty much anybody in our fleet, to be able to move these around when needed. Again, more flexibility. The 920 does require a commercial driver's license. So again, positioning ourselves. And then the fuel station, we mentioned that's in progress already. Our another recommendation is the 9 portable generators, which would increase the number of Western Water-owned generators from 9 to 18, increasing our coverage and again the flexibility. That'll be 4 60 kilowatt smaller generators, 1 125 kilowatt, and 4 425 larger kilowatt generators for our fleet. So I do want to highlight here that staff is leveraging the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Agreement for Caterpillar for electrical energy power generation equipment and this purchase for these generators. So our reason for action today, Southern California Edison Public Safety power shutoff event in January 2025 exposed vulnerabilities in Western Water's ability to maintain uninterrupted service during extended power outages. really just position ourselves to set ourselves up for success to deal with these in the future. And our request to the board today is to increase the capital improvement and facilities plan for fiscal year 25-26 to include the Emergency Preparedness and Mitigation Response Program in the amount of $1,761,232 under the Asset Replacement and Fleet Fund for fiscal year 25-26, as well as authorize the general manager to execute a contract and open the associated purchase order with Hawthorne Power Systems of San Diego, California, for the purchase of 9 Caterpillar portable generators for amount not to exceed $1,636,250. And lastly, authorize the general manager to execute a contract and open the associated purchase order with Hart Fueling Services of Ashton, Pennsylvania, for the purchase of 3 Thunder Creek fuel trailers for an amount not to exceed $124,982. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. First of all, Ms. Ford, do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not.
Okay. Any questions from the board, including Director Denstedt? Do you have any questions, Fausia? You good?
No.
Good?
I would just observe that this is really important. We'll see more public
Super
safety power shutoffs in the future than we have in the past, given the events from earlier this year and late last year. The electric utilities are getting very jumpy.
Yeah.
And nobody thinks through the impact on organizations like us. So this is something we have to do, and I want to compliment staff on your forward thinking on this. It's really important. And our customers don't know about it, but they appreciate it anyway. So I would move approval.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, and I loved what you said about basically don't let a crisis go to waste.
Yes.
Because it was a learning process, and we were able to now address this as we go forward, and it's super important. Very briefly, there was in Harupa Valley, they had some of the shutdowns at the same time in the city, and one of them encompassed a 3-story, I don't know how many units, senior housing project. There was no power to the elevators, and a lot of the seniors had wheelchair and walker and access like that, and their refrigerators, all their food was spoiled. And so I know the city is working on just some different ways to help mitigate that, and also on any new development to put things in place for that. So I appreciate this very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second for the staff recommendation.
I'll take the vote. Director Gardner.
Aye.
Director Denstedt.
Aye.
Director Rizvi.
Aye.
President Roten.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0 with Director Torres being absent.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item B, approve a project budget increase and award a construction contract for the North Well 2 rehabilitation project.
All right, thank you very much. We've been keeping the board updated through the EOWR committee. So Derek is going to present our request to the board today.
Good morning, directors. This item focuses on restoring the full production capacity of North Well 2 in Marietta. When the well was originally drilled, the production target was achieved using the upper screen interval, so there was not an operational need at that time to develop the lower reaches of this rather deep well. Now that we are facing PFOS concerns in the region, the ability to draw water throughout the full depth of the well becomes much more important. Greater vertical contribution allows blending within the well column and can help improve water quality by diluting or offsetting PFOS concentrations found in the upper intervals. Recent flow profiling confirmed that more than 200 feet of the lower screen is completely blocked, likely from drilling mud left during the initial construction. Rehabilitation will remove these obstructions, redevelop the lower interval, restore the well to full capacity, and give us improved water quality performance. 3 bids were received And Best Drilling and Pump submitted the lowest responsible and responsive bid. The requested action is to increase the total project budget from the total project budget to $1,172,045 and award the construction contract to Best Drilling and Pump in the amount of $682,384.12. I now invite any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions? I don't see any. Director Denstedt isn't signaling.
She is not. She just
No,
signaled.
Just a comment, just a comment. I appreciate staff's due diligence on this project. I really do. And I just want to make sure that, you know, this is going to take us to accomplishing our ultimate goals eventually, to not have to deal with any more projects at this well, and it just runs like a fine-tuned machine. So I appreciate everything, and I will make the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, Director Gardner. And did we have any public comments that I asked on that one?
We do not.
Okay. All right, I think we're ready for the vote whenever you are.
Director Gardner.
Aye.
Director Dinstedt.
Aye.
Director Risby.
Aye.
President Roten.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0 with Director Torres being absent.
okay,
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, directors.
thank you. We'll move on to reports, General Counsel report. Mr. Ballinger, do we have one today?
Just real briefly, it is that time of year that BBK will be putting out our new laws series in the new year, so keep an eye out for those. If you're not signed up for our emails, please let me know. Other than that, happy holidays.
Okay, thank you very much. Making myself a note to check my emails. Okay, and Mr. Miller, General Manager and Staff reports.
Sure. So coming off of Aqua, we certainly have a lot going on and a lot to report. Appreciate the board members being there that could be there. It was great seeing you attending all the different sessions. It was a really good conference, a really active conference. I got a couple things to recap. One of the most interesting things that may have kind of been under the radar was the Water Management Committee that happened on Tuesday. And the Water Management Committee actually took a vote on an item, which I've never seen them do before. And they wanted to kind of push the Aqua board into taking up the issue of Aqua taking positions on major projects, because Aqua has not been taking positions on major projects, which is a little, I guess, surprising that the organization, the biggest organization representing water agencies from across the state, is staying silent on water supply development. So I spoke in favor of the motion, as did Joe Mawad, and I'm missing someone else. But the Water Management Committee voted, I think, unanimously with a couple of abstentions to move forward the idea, the concept that Aqua will take positions on major water projects. So that was really interesting, and glad to see Dave Peterson as the chair of that committee really showing some great leadership to say Aqua has to play a bigger role in water in California. And that's what we're paying them to do. That's what Western's paying them to do. So I loved it. We had an excellent presentation by Grace. We were up for the Huell Hauser Award for communications for our outreach program. I may be biased, but we had the best program. Unfortunately, in the competition was Cute Kids and a Grammy Award-winning rapper that was hard to compete with. So we actually did not win, but I think I know why. We also did a celebration mixer on Wednesday evening for all of the supporters and sponsors of FSB 72. So I thought it was a great opportunity to thank everyone. I want to again thank our board for allowing this all to take place and for us to do all the work. But I also want to thank all the other boards for contributing money, for allowing their staff to work on this. And it was a huge effort, and I thought that event went really well. We also had quite a few meetings, kind of hallway meetings between, our water industry, between San Diego Water Authority, Metropolitan, Harupa Community Services District, Elsinore Valley, the IEOC caucus, and legal councils. So it was really busy. It was a busy few days. So Great Aqua, I don't know if any of the directors want to add that to their comments at the end of the meeting today. As the day before Aqua, we convened our 8th session of the Water Solutions Summit group. This is an invite-only group that actually was the genesis of SB 72. So it was a half a day meeting with this group. We had about 25 people in there. We had a couple of star guests. Carla Namath and Joel Metzger from DWR were there. Now that the bill is passed, they were asked to develop 9 million acre feet in the bill. It's now law that they have to do that. And so they wanted to collaborate with this group to find out, okay, tell us exactly what you hope to achieve with your bill, and how do we partner with you to do it? And I must say that Director Nemeth was inspirational in her comments about, we can get this done as a Department of Water Resources, and we want to make sure it gets done, and we want your help. So it was great. So we're crafting, the next step is the advisory committee that will help them, and so we have crafted a white paper for a structure of that, and we'll be making those suggestions to DWR, because it's their decision on who makes up the advisory committee. Carla had one really interesting comment. We as a state need to stop admiring the problem of water supply in California and start with solutions. And I was like, ooh, that is a good, because
Really
for
good.
30 years we've been admiring how hard it is, and we need to stop doing that. Okay, changing gears. Our executive management team had our first session of planning for our next 10 years of aspirational direction. So we had a 10-year aspiration. It was called Aspiration 2025. It is 2025. We've run out of aspiration now. So we need more. So we sat in this room actually for an entire day and really put a lot of thought to, what did we do right? What did we do wrong over the last 10 years? And where do we want to be 10 years from now? We're not done. It's going to take a lot of work. We will be preparing that ultimately for a presentation with the board before it's finalized. We definitely have to have your input. The other thing that is coming out, I'll give you kind of a preview a little bit. As we are talking about that, our EMT group is recognizing that our mission statement and our vision statement is probably not in great alignment with what we're actually achieving. I think we've kind of surpassed our vision. And so at some point, I have to figure out what the right sequencing is, but we have to get the board's input on modifying. We think we need to modify both of those statements. So I'll work with the board president to think of a format to do that, but I don't want staff off in this long-term planning environment and not have the board riding along. And I don't want to burden the board with being in all-day sessions to do this, so we'll certainly figure out a way to present it at the right time to the board for the right amount of input, but we're definitely not going to get in front of the board, because we have to have, you're the policy leaders, this is the big policy discussion, so we want to make sure that you're engaged. So we'll work on that, President Roten, to figure out how to do that. You have on your desk, on the dais, our legislative platform. It's a red line version, which was asked for at the ComGov committee meeting. Show us where it's changing. So you have that. Give me any comments that you have before we finalize that. So that's in front of you. Last Friday, we had a really nice tour. Thank you, Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, for touring the Riverside County Water Task Force for our year-end forum. We had a nice tour, a great lunch, and an okay discussion afterwards. I can say that because I was part of the discussion. But really nice event, and we're looking forward to another year of engagement with the Water Task Force. Some kind of business items are, I'm requesting that we cancel our January ComGov meeting. We don't have a lot of items for that, and there's some scheduling problems. So unless the board, let me know if you have a problem with that, but we think that it's good to cancel it, and it does conflict with CMUA Ledge Day in Sacramento, which myself and Sarah and Michael and hopefully a board member will be there with us to do that. And then we need to make sure we try and get out of here in short order, because we do have the annual Employee Appreciation event, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all there if you can make it. That concludes my comments.
Okay. Let's see, so we will, and no other staff reports or anything today?
No other staff reports.
Okay. So we'll move into director's comments. Director Denstedt, do you want to start? Or?
Sure.
Oh, there you
Thanks.
go.
Nope, sorry. It takes me a second just to push the mute button.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you for that. And just a really brief thing on the Aqua conference. It was really an awesome conference. A lot of conversation, a lot of stuff going on. And I actually went to attend the invasive species and found out those little quagga mussels and those things, they can close up for over 200 days when you chlorinate for them. So found out it's a lot harder to get rid of these little buggers than we thought originally. So interesting little education for me. But nope, thank you for everything. I wanted to wish everybody a happy holidays. I am sad that I am in Vegas at CRUA, and I'm going to miss the employee event for the very first time, I think, of being on the board. So my apologies, but my well wishes to everybody, and congratulations to everybody who is recognized. I look forward to seeing the list and hopefully getting a taste of the program. But I hope you guys all have a wonderful holidays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Risby, do you have, and if you have any highlights, I know the reports are not on the, I almost said the menu. I must be thinking about lunch. I really meant the agenda. But if you had a highlight that you wanted to share, that's fine.
I just wanted to tell them that one time that we had a SORA meeting. I'm not allowed to report on it, so just wanted to mention we had a SORA meeting. It was just routine items, but I just wanted to mention that, Director Torres is not here. She's always like, you never meet for SORA, so I was like, okay. Other than that, I just wanted to wish everyone happy holidays, and thank you to staff for working the whole year, and I'm looking forward to the recognition event later today. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you. Director Gardner?
I also was on the tour of the Elsinore Valley facilities. It was a really good tour. We got some information that most people aren't aware of at all. And they're the proud owners of an unsafe dam.
Yeah.
Very unsafe.
Yes. There are a few of those in this area, and it's a challenge for them because they don't have the money to take it out, but ultimately they need to take it out. So that will be interesting for them. Again, thank you to our staff. It's been a huge year for this organization, and you've all done really super work. I'm immensely proud of you and glad to be here, and I wish you a very happy whatever you celebrate at your house, and a happy New Year. And nobody leaves the room without cookies.
Over there.
I'm looking forward.
Over there. Okay. Thank you, Director Gardner. So I do have a couple comments, but I'll try to be brief. First of all, when Craig mentioned about keeping the board engaged, jogged my mind a little bit that I think I saw a Facebook post this week, And that congratulations are in order for Director Risby as far as being engaged.
Yes.
Aw, congratulations.
Thank you. I don't have the ring yet. It's resizing.
Okay. You know what, it's funny you said that because I kind of glanced over and I'm like, oh, I don't see a ring.
Yeah, it's resizing. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so thank you for that segue. That was perfect. I also went on the water tour, and that water task force is just so valuable. The Zoom meetings, the way we have the schedule now, they're quarterly and then once a year with in person. It's just, and it's such a wide variety of folks that attend both of those, both the Zoom and the in-person. And it exposes people who might not typically be a water background to water things. It's just really great. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I did want to give just a few highlights from Aqua because if I don't do it now, I won't remember. So I'm also there for the JPIA, so the Joint Powers Insurance Authority that we belong to through Aqua. So I have the privilege of going a day early and participating in that. And there, let me look here. I tried to just highlight a few things so I could be quick. So that meeting started on Monday, December 1st, and they introduced at the pre-board lunch meeting, they introduced their new cybersecurity risk specialist, and his name is Hunter Sargent. And a few times throughout the JPIA portion, they mentioned his accessibility. So I just want to make sure that I had told Craig I'm going to follow up, which I haven't done yet, with an email of some of the things that I thought, oh, I need to make sure staff knows these things. You probably already do, but just in case, I promise I will follow up with an email. So the cybersecurity portion of JPIA has really kind of grown and been enhanced as time has gone on. It started with a much smaller footprint, I guess you could say, and each year that goes by and the importance just heightens even that much further. They're doing things to enrich that portion of JPIA. So that was really interesting. Although, oh no, that was a different thing I attended. Okay, so they had the board of directors meeting, which is a lot of, just typical things you would expect at the board of directors meeting. But let's see. Oh, somebody asked, or else they just felt compelled to share, that sometimes the reasons that they have a couple of the speakers that they have, because there was one I was listening to and I thought, this isn't really for a board member, this is more for staff. But they addressed that and they said, well, the reason we like to do that is because after this portion of the conference, we get a lot of calls from different members whose board members go and then they have questions and they go back and talk to their staff. And so they see just renewed interest or more interest in a particular topic. So I thought, well, that makes sense. So I appreciated that. Let's see. Oh, JPIA seems to have this sort of a general comment, a lot of checklists available through them of different things. One of the speakers that I attended through them was transferring risk. And I didn't even know what that meant until I sat there and listened to it. But making sure that basically, I'm going to say that we've covered all our bases when we enter into contracts with folks. And they are there to help. You're able to just make a phone call and ask some of those questions if we ever have any. And again, we're so on top of so many things that you guys are probably like, yeah, we do that. Yeah, we know that. But just in case, I'll filter that onto Craig. And I think, and we did get a couple of their recognitions. Employee Benefits Program Wellness Grant Award winners, Western was listed there. And also the Property Program President's Award. Western, wait, did I say that right? Yes, Western was listed there on that list. And I have one more little flag. It was the, hold on. I wanted to make sure that I had marked the right, whoops. Property Program President's Award for fall of 2025, and I had jotted down a note that it was 20% or less loss, I guess, over the year. So that's how we qualified for that. And then the CEO update, they're working on their strategic plan, and then kind of the big news of throughout the conference with JPIA was their new building purchase. At the spring conference, they were in escrow, and escrow closed in July. It's I wrote down 50,000 square foot facility. They went through why they needed more room, which made sense as they presented it, and how long it had been and those kinds of things. They may even be able, if there's extra space when they first move in, they may be able to lease out some of that to help defray the costs. And apparently, they actually have the money to pay for the new building. So I thought, what rates are we paying them? No, I'm kidding. Totally kidding. Yeah, so that was pretty much it for JPIA. And Aqua, hold on just 1 second. Let me make sure I didn't miss this person. Yeah, risk transfer. Okay. So Aqua, I promise you I will not read all 7 of these pages of notes. I attended the Agricultural Committee on the afternoon of the 2nd, which would have been Tuesday. And they presented on 3 different projects at that committee that were related. And then the keynote speaker on the 3rd at the regular Aqua conference was the president and CEO of Western Growers. And then they also offered a JPIA update. So I got to attend JPIA, and then it got a couple of different updates throughout the next couple of days, which is always great for me to hear it more than once. They talked about the new cyber risk person, also attended Grace's wonderful presentation, and that was that. And then there was a water talk on generative AI. Most of it was way over my head, but I guess this is what I got out of it. Regular AI traditional AI predicts from data that it already draws from. Generative, I hope I have that word right, generative AI creates new insights and new content.
Makes stuff up.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then I attended the federal policy program with puzzle pieces of the Colorado River. That seemed to be a topic that was mentioned throughout, as it should be as the deadline is approaching. Region 9 meeting, and Carol Lee Brady is going to be, starting in January, officially vice chair of Aqua, which is, I think, so cool, because that's kind of a, progression, that position tends to progress to then first vice chair and then chair of Aqua, and for us to have someone in our own backyard as part of that is going to be really good. And let's see, I attended the next day, the innovation section. I love that. That's one of my favorite things about Aqua, hearing all the really cool stuff that these different agencies are doing. And I don't have to tell you everything about them. And then, let's see, and then there was another speaker on, the last day is just a half day, and it was about advancing research during uncertain times. Why focus on research? California challenges are not going away. Research is to help us do more with less. And I thought about the studies that we incorporated into California Water for All, which is the research. And when you have that, then people can refer to it and actually see the picture of the importance. So I think that was it, at least that I'm going to tell you. And I agree. I think it's a wonderful conference, and we're very blessed to be able to go and send as many people as we do to it, I think. So, do we have any requests for future agenda items? Okay, I don't see any, and I don't hear any. So we will now move into closed session. Mr. Ballinger, do you want to send us into closed session, or Mr. Neufeld?
The board will be meeting on the two items that are listed on the agenda, the conference with labor negotiators and the real property negotiations.
Okay.
Director Denstedt, please stay on the Zoom, and we will move you into this closed session room.
Okay, and I'm probably going to relocate, so I'm not out in a public area for this. So you may lose me. As I
Okay.
go back in the elevator, okay?
Great, no worries. When you dial,
Director
if you have to
Denstedt?
dial in, we'll enter you into closed session.
Yes.
If you do drop, just rejoin the same Zoom.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
General
Okay, we're good to
Counsel,
go.
can you bring us back into open session?
Yes, have him bring you back into open session, and because you're not all here, we do need to take roll call again.
Okay.
All right, the board met in closed session to discuss the 2 items that are listed on the agenda. There was no reportable action.
Okay, and now we're going to do a roll call.
Roll call. Actually, I can just note that Director Denstedt left the meeting at 11:30 and is not on the dais.
Okay. And I show that our next meeting is January 7th. That sounds so far away. At 9:30 a.m. right here. And with that, we will adjourn. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody.